Okay,
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Liberty Road Design Guidelines and DRP area designation. We are pleased that so many of you can join us tonight. My name is Ngone Job. I am with Baltimore County Department of Planning, and I'm the Western Sector Coordinator. This meeting is being recorded. So for the past few months, Baltimore County, in partnership with community stakeholders, have been working on drafting commercial design guidelines for section of Liberty Road Corridor. The goal of this public meeting is to share with you all the ongoing work and seek additional input. Next. So we have a full agenda tonight. First step, we'll go to the steering committee members and the county staff introduction. Then we'll follow by a short background on the project. Then I will present the Liberty Road Design Guidelines overview and goals. Next, I will share with you the design guidelines that the committee has developed so far. I will then have planning staff show you a simulation of what a shopping center could look like in case of redevelopment under the approved design guideline. Lastly, but not least, I will share with you the link where you will be able to provide additional input regarding this project. So before we start the introduction, I want to go over some useful tools that you may need during the meeting. Perhaps for some of you, this may be the first time using the WebEx application. So the mic icon is if you want to mute and unmute your microphone, even though in this case, some of our staff will have to unmute you. The video will turn your video on and off. The participant icon will bring up the participant list. The chat opens up a chat window, and the leave or the X icon enables you to exit the meeting. So there is another also useful tool. It's the hand raising. You can use your hand raise option when you like to speak. Just over your name. I'm sorry, I'm still doing the meeting tips. Just over your name in the participant list and click the hand icon. So when you are done speaking, just click it again and unraise your hand. So this is an online public meeting. So we are asking everyone to please remain unmute, which you will be. This will remove any background noise during the presentation. So we will take questions and comments after the presentation. We have staff here that will be monitoring the chat box. If you have any comments or any questions, you can type it in the chat box. There are also few people on the phones. For those of you who cannot see the screen, the presentation will be posted on our website after the meeting. So thank you, and without further ado, let's get into the introduction. So I would like to start by asking elected officials, if you are in attendance, to please present yourself. Chris, you're gonna help me with this by unmuting them.
Okay.
Thank you. I believe Councilman Julian Jones is here. Maybe we can come back to him. What about Speaker Adrian Jones?
I'm here.
Thank you and welcome. We may have Delegate Patrickion or someone representing his office.
I don't see him on there.
Okay. Well, if I have missed anyone, I apologize. You can always type your name in the chat box and we can unmute you so you can present yourself. Next, I will introduce the steering committee members. So members, if you are here, as I say your name, we will unmute you and you can present yourself. Kelly Carter from Liberty Road Business Association.
I do not see her on the list, Kane.
Okay. Shirley Supik from Liberty Road Community Council.
I do not see her either.
Mildred Owen from Liberty Manor Community Association.
Hello, my name is Mildred Owens. Thank you. I'm the Liberty Manor Community Association President. Glad to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Devon Park from Stony Brook Community Association. I know she was having technical issues.
Yeah, I don't see her microphone at all. I don't have an option to unmute her.
Okay.
She's
what
at the
about-
chat to say here.
Okay, good. Thank you and welcome. Mr. Aaron Plymouth from Combined Communities Advocacy Council.
Hello, I am Aaron Plymouth, Chairperson of the Combined Communities Advocacy Council, Greater Reynolds Town Incorporated, and we are entering our 11th year in existence.
Thank you, Mr. Aaron. Bill Brooks from Timber Glen Estate Community Association.
I don't see him on here.
Martin Nathanson from Northwest Hospital.
Have enough to participate.
I didn't hear that.
Well,
Justin Rosemore from ARLS Properties LLC.
I don't see him on there.
Cicely Bedwell, Baltimore County DRP member.
And I do not see her name either.
And then we have a couple of members from the Liberty Road Clean, Safe, and Green Committee. India Artist.
Hi, Secretary for the Villanova Community Association.
Welcome, India. Sheila Lewis.
I'm here. Hello, this is Sheila. How you doing? I'm glad to be here this evening.
Thank you. Glad to have you. Stephanie Hubman.
I do not see her on there.
Pat Duffy.
Nope.
And Jamelia Blount.
And I do not see that name either.
Okay, thank you. Next, please. Linda Dorsey Walker. Daniel Wink. I'm sorry.
Baltimore County's Democratic State Central Committee, Legislative District 11.
Good evening, Linda. Daniel Winky Smith.
Hi, good evening. This is Danielle Winky Smith, Baltimore County District 10 Central Committee.
Thank you, Danielle. Denny Blount.
Hi, good evening. Danny Blount, District 10, member of the Baltimore County Democratic State Central Committee.
Welcome. Bishop Barry Chapman.
This is Bishop Barry Chapman, member of the Villanova Community Association, a member of 44B Democratic State Central Committee.
Thank you. And then I have George White.
I do not see him on here.
Okay, thank you. Next. I also have several staff from Baltimore County. who have been part of this committee. But before I introduce them, I would like to introduce here present Steve Lafferty, Director of Department of Planning.
Thank you, Gane. Greetings to everybody. I just want to thank everybody for spending their time this evening to try to make the Liberty Road Corridor a much better and stronger place. And thank the leadership of Gane and the other Department of Planning staff. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and look forward to the evening's conversation. Thank you, Gane.
Thank you, Steve. From the Office of Community Engagement, Kirk Mitchell and Michelle Bernstein. From the Department of Permit, Approvals and Inspection, Jeff Perlow and Jim Herman. From the Department of Public Works, Sam Sneed, Jesse Bailek and Daniel Allen. From the Department of Economic and Workforce Development, Jessica Normington and Todd Dolbin. From the Department of Environmental Protection and Sustainability, Preeti Udin and Kerry Oberholzer. And from the Department of Planning, we had several staff here. Amy Mante, Deputy Director for the Department of Planning. We have Christopher Weaver, Miles Mahleberger, Tisheng Huang, Josephine Selvam Kumar, Bill Skibinski, and myself, Ngonejo. So now that we are past the introductions, I'm gonna go ahead and give you a little background why we are here. So in 2019, the county initiated a series of community engagement for Liberty Road and the surrounding communities, just to identify specific projects and policies that they wish to include in the Northwest Gateway Sustainable Community Plan Renewal. Many of you were involved in this process. And at the time, one of the top concerns we heard from the community was the aesthetic look of the corridor. So the study recommended that creating design guidelines for Liberty Road would achieve the desired character for the area. Next. So the map on your screen shows the Northwest Gateway Sustainable Community Area boundary. The plan is not specific to just Liberty Road. As you can see, it's a large area that includes Randallstown, Pikesville, and Woodlawn. The plan was renewed last year and is good for another 5 years until 2025. So the plan identifies projects and strategies that the community and the county should pursue over the next 5 years. And as stated earlier, one of the projects that was identified in the action plan includes creating design guidelines for Liberty Road. So if you haven't had a chance to read the Northwest Gateways plan, please check it out. It's on our website. And I can share the link in the chat box in a moment. And you should all see the link now. Next, please. So here we have the design review areas in the county. Baltimore County design review areas were created in 1993. Currently, we have 12 design review areas in the county. Some are commercial review areas, others are residential. So why are these areas important? So any development, whether a new construction or a redevelopment located in a design review area, is subject to review by the design review panel. The panel is an advisory and consulting body to the county agencies. The panel consists of 9 members, and their role is to assess the overall quality of a project through the application of design guidelines. Next, please. So I want to talk a little bit about the design guidelines objective. Often they are created to enhance the aesthetic quality of a community. So it helps in encouraging good design. It also helps establish a common understanding of design principles and standards. Design guidelines can help achieve the desired character for an area. It helps project a positive image to passerby. So the design guidelines will make Liberty Road a welcoming and an attractive place to live and visit. It is important to know that the guidelines are not hard and fast development requirements. So the DRP recommendations are binding to the hearing officer and to the county agency. Next, please. The map on the screen shows the focus area for the Liberty Road design guideline. The focus is on the central part of Liberty Road from I-695 to approximately Greens Lane. I'm sure you all are wondering why this specific area. Well, Liberty Road is a large corridor. It's about 8 miles long. And after analyzing the whole corridor, we decided that it would be better to break it down by node. So we thought that the central node is a good starting point for the DRP area designation and for the design guideline. So the community describes this area as the heart of Randallstown. It has like the most concentration of commercial development. It's highly frequented for either work, live, or shop. And there is also a number of empty lots and buildings that have high potential for redevelopment. Next, please. And just like the study area, we also have a land use focus. For this time around, the focus is only on commercial design guidelines. So with just the shopping centers. We have about 8 shopping centers within the study area. The project will require additional phases to address other types of land use. Next, please. So the Liberty Road design guidelines address the following elements. There will be architecture, landscaping and streetscape, and signage. Each element plays an important role and contribute to the overall visual aesthetic of an area. So the steering committee has made the recommendation for each element, which I will be sharing soon. For the applicability, once approved, the design guidelines will apply to all new commercial development, rehabilitation of vacant or dilapidated commercial properties, alterations and renovation of existing commercial buildings, additions to existing commercial buildings, and commercial properties requesting a zoning petition, such as variant, special hearing, or special exception. So before I share the draft that the committee has come up with, I want to take this opportunity to thank all the members of the committee for their time and dedication. They have been in partnership with the county since September 2020, when we had our initial meeting. In October 2020, we held an in-person and a virtual tour of the study area. Then from November 2020 to January 2021, we had monthly meetings. In between the meetings, they participated in 2 surveys. So thank you for all your hard work. But I also want to welcome any property owners who are in attendance tonight, because throughout the whole process, we reach out to all the property owners in the study area. So at the start of the project, we sent out letters to inform them about the project. In the middle of the process, we made an attempt to meet with them to answer any questions they may have. And then just last month, we sent out invitations for this meeting. So if you are here in attendance, welcome. All right, now at this point, I would like to share with you the design guidelines draft recommended by the committee. So I will share the guidelines by elements, with the first design element being architecture. At the end of each section, you will be participating in a brief poll, about 2 to 3 minutes, just to assess the draft so far, what you have seen so far. So after the meeting, there will be another opportunity to submit detailed feedback online on the entire draft. So I'm gonna start with the architectural palette. For the color of the building, the committee suggested the use of warm colors, natural stone colors, and warm stain wood, as illustrated on this picture. There were also suggestions of using a color coordinated palette for each shopping center. Next, please. The building materials, what they agree was that they should predominantly be brick or stone, or a combination of both. Developers should avoid materials and styles that would quickly become outdated. And on this picture, you can see the use of brick on the upper portion of the building, while stone covers the lower portion. And this example is from the Corey Lake at Greensburg. So the committee also recommended that there be some articulations on the buildings to give the facade some personality, such as incorporating facade variations and detailed design, and variation also on the types of roof to avoid a flat and monolithic appearance. Sustainable practices. This has been a hot topic within the committee members. They all have expressed their desire for developers to use eco-friendly materials during construction, whenever economically feasible and available. And this picture shows the use of rooftop solar panels as a renewable energy source. And with still keeping with the same mindset, the committee would like to see the use of eco-stone fencing or something similar that is attractive and eco-friendly. If you are not familiar with eco-stone, it's a look-like stone fence made out of recycled content. And another recommendation is the use of natural stone highlighted by black cast iron, railings and fencings, as illustrated on this picture. And also the use of metal gates were recommended, for instance, for playground. And moving into the pedestrian component, the committee recommends to employ changes in grade, in texture, material, color, finish to define the pedestrian access. So they recommend that the coursework material be brick or stone, or stamp of look like brick or stone. The picture on your left shows brick coursework, and then the one on your right shows colored concrete coursework stamped to look like brick. And then we know that trash is a big topic in Randallstown. It was a big topic during the Liberty Road study, and the lack of adequate trash receptacles at bus stops is a constant issue. So the committee recommends that developers coordinate with SHA MTA to provide adequate trash receptacles if the shopping center is near a bus stop. And for dumpster enclosures, dumpsters should not be visible from public street, nor should they be located at site entrances. So that is on the zoning regulations, but they have identified those two in here. They said that dumpster enclosure is required, and the dumpster material should match those on the principal building. And for instance, on this picture, it's in brick. And again, coming back to the coordination with SHA MTA, if a bus stop is in front or near a shopping center, the developer should coordinate with SHA and MTA to ensure that the bus shelter is in place. The committee raised the amount, they raised the amount of electrical wires in the area, and they would like to see utility poles buried in future development and redevelopment. And of course, if that's financially and technically feasible. So both pictures here show the same location, is the same picture actually. The one on the right is without the power line. And moving to the storefront design, the committee voted on wider arcades. They recommend shopping centers to incorporate a continuous covered walkway along the entire storefront, and a minimum 7-foot wide sidewalk to allow for seating areas in a large flower planter. And the committee also encourage larger display windows to establish some type of connection between the interior and the exterior. This picture over here was taken at the village at Arbor Lake, and you can see how the large windows allow for customer visibility into the store. So this is the end of this section, architecture. Now I will let Miles, who's gonna prepare a poll. You will be participating in this poll. It's about 3 minutes long. Just to, it will be like questions of agree, a series of questions where you will either click agree or disagree with what you have seen so far.
Good evening, everyone. The poll should now be open. Josephine, just in case anyone needs any reminders, do you think we could go back to the earlier sections as well?
Yeah, I can go back. Hold on a second.
There's about a minute left now. In 10 seconds. Okay. Now, I believe as attendees, you all can see the results on your screen, but I'll break it down a little further just in case there are any panelists or anyone else who can't. For the first question, do you agree with section A? There were 0 no's. Everyone was in response and agreement to that. For section B, 0 no's as well. Section 3, there was 1 no and 64 in agreement with section C. For section D, there was 55 in agreement and 3 with the no answer. And for section E, 52 in agreement and 1 against.
Okay, great, Miles. Thank you so much. Again, you'll have time to review the draft later after the meeting. Take your time and provide your comment. But this was just just to have a perception of how do you agree with the on-working draft so far. So now we can move to landscaping and streetscape design guideline and show you what the committee has recommended. So the committee recommends a minimum of 10% of the parking lot area for interior landscaping. The parking lot should have landscape islands to define circulation patterns and provide pedestrian access. So right now, the Baltimore County Landscape Manual requires 7% of the parking lot area to be reserved for interior landscaping. For the landscape buffer, a minimum of 10-foot wide landscape buffer is required for properties along Liberty Road. This will enable to have like elaborate landscaping and improve the aesthetic look of the corridor. The committee also recommends that a minimum 3% of the shopping center gross land area be dedicated to gathering space with amenities such as tot lots, sitting areas, and so forth. On the screen is an example of amenity open space at the Avenue at White Marsh. Another recommendation is to incorporate large flower planters in arcade frontage and also along Liberty Road, and as illustrated on the pictures on the screen. Trees are an important component of design guidelines, but the committee suggests that they be trimmed 8 feet above grade when they are near sidewalk or in front of retail stores to enable access and visibility. So in terms of plants, the committee suggests that they be native and adaptive to the local climate and the soil conditions. They have listed few conditions. One, they need to be low allergy plants, such as the one displayed here, nannyberry or hosta plant. They should be deer resistant, such as these examples on the screen. Next, please. And the plant should be a combination of flowers that will bloom year round. Next, please. And most importantly, they must be low maintenance. Next, please. And to be sustainable, the committee suggests that development projects should integrate stormwater management areas in the landscape, as long as it is in compliance and with the latest stormwater management regulations. And they should also design stormwater management areas as rain gardens or buyer's wells to beautify, if of course that's feasible and in conformity with the stormwater management regulations. The committee stressed the importance of maintenance. It's nice to have beautiful landscape design, but members of the committee recommend that property owners should have a maintenance strategy in place to offer a consistent and a welcoming and safe experience to the customer. Moving to lighting, for lighting, the consensus is to use solar alternative and self-sustainable light as the main source of power in the shopping centers, or at least for the parking light fixture. And the committee voted on aluminum or steel for the light pole finish. The difference between the two is displayed on the screen. So aluminum has a lifespan of 50 years or more. It's easy to install, it's resistant to rust, and it's suitable in wet areas. Now, steel has 15 to 30-year lifespan. It's durable and it's economical. And then when placing the lighting pole, the committee agreed that it should be uniform around the entire lot to create a safe environment. Next, please. And lighting should also be placed at disability areas to ensure that they are ADA compliant. Next, please. Some members brought up how dark some of the shopping centers can be at night. So it was recommended that lighting should be consistent and bright within the county regulations, of course, but they should not all provide spillover to the adjacent residential property. All right, getting into public art, the committee would like to see public art in the shopping centers. The public art can be freestanding sculptures, such as these illustrated on the screen. It can be, for example, an abstract art, an art expressing historic events, or commemorating someone. Public art can also be a fountain within the shopping center, as long as it's fenced and landscaped at the bottom. The public art can also be quotes from natives of Randallstown in sitting areas, or other community-oriented topics, such as workforce. The committee voted that the public art should be placed at the entrance of the shopping centers or at gathering space areas. To honor the rich history of Randallstown, the public art theme should be Randallstown culture, Randallstown community, African American art, or a theme reflecting business operations in Randallstown. But there were also another recommendation to have the public be part of the selection process when the developers are selecting a public art or naming a shopping center. So for the shopping center amenities, the committee has voted on these types of amenities. They would like to see in the shopping centers bike racks, they would also like to see electric car parking and charging stations. They would like to see outdoor seating areas and gathering areas. And they would like to see benches throughout the whole shopping center. So that's all I have for this section. It's now time to participate in another poll, and this one will be about 2 minutes.
The polls are now open. And 30 seconds left now. Okay, just to briefly review the results of the poll for question 1, section A, lighting. 71 said yes and 5 said no of their approval. And for section B, streetscape design, 69 said yes and 6 said no.
Okay, great. Thank you, Miles. Now let's move on to signage. So this is the last design element that we have to present to you. We know that signs are one of the most noticeable elements along commercial corridors, and they play a major role in creating a visual image for an area. So we want the signage to look good, because poorly designed signs can negatively impact the viewer's perception of a community. So let's get into the recommendations of the committee. So the committee recommends that identification signs should include material from the shopping center facade, for instance, brick or stone, as illustrated on the pictures on the right. The pictures on the left show a before and after picture of the Liberty Crossroad Shopping Center. The materials and colors on the new sign match those on the principal building. Next, please. The committee also voted on the placement of the signage. They would like to see it in like an island with ingress and egress on each side. For instance, the Walmart on Liberty Road, where the identification sign is placed in the middle with cars entering and exiting on each side. They also encourage the bottom of the identification signage to be landscaped with plants that won't obstruct visibility. They encourage monument or low profile and also ground mounted signs over pylon signs, just like here on this picture taken at the shops at Quarry Lake. And then for the tenant signage, the committee encouraged that they relate to their surroundings and be complementary. They should be designed using high quality materials with uniform design elements such as the size, the color, or the lighting, and even the placement on the property. As you can see on this picture, it's really well coordinated with the different tenant signage. The committee also encouraged directional signs within the shopping center, all that to create improved visibility and also enhance wayfinding in a safe and convenient manner. And that's all we have for signage. And this is the third and last poll that you will be participating in.
Okay, for the results of this poll, for question 1, section A, identification signage, it was unanimous support for those that responded to the question, 73. For section B, tenant signage, 71 were in support of the section while 2 opposed. And for section 3, directional signage, 67 were in support while 2 were in disagreement with this section.
Very good. Thank you, Miles. So at this point, I will turn it over to Tisheng from the planning department. Tisheng has used SketchUp, which is a 3D application, and has applied the draft guidelines that we have to show you what the Liberty Court Shopping Center could look like if it was redeveloped under the approved guidelines. So Emily, please take it over.
Thank you, Gane. Hello, everyone. Good evening. So department basically incorporated community members' comments and suggestions and try to use one existing shopping center to present how the shopping center being retrofit will look like if being redeveloped. So this is, you can see it on the slide. This is the current shopping centers. The next slide, Josephine, thank you. So, and then on this angle, the simulation showing that the previous slides have like intensive parking, paved parking areas. Now we try to incorporate traffic island with trees, plant, so increasing the green areas. And also, you can see that they in this simulation, we try to incorporate potentially connectivity. So from the Liberty Road to the lower part, or on the left side, on the right side, the old Coal Road, you can really access to the shopping center by walk. Next slide. And this one, we can show in the view from the main entrance located on the Liberty Road. On the both sides, you have sidewalk leading from the Liberty Road into the internal of the shopping center. And here on the right side, you can see there's some seating areas being presented, and also public work at the by the entrance. And on the left side, you can see the signage, which is tried to be matched to the principal building, which you will see in later presentation. Next slide. And this is another entrance located on the Old Coal Road. So you can also see that both sides of the entrance have a sidewalk leading to the shopping center. And on the upper left side, there's currently is a library building. So for community member, either they can drive to the shopping center by cars, or they can also walk literally to bring their children or grandchildren to the library, and then to have some good time in the library, maybe also do some other activity to meet with other community members. The next slide. And then here, current shopping center doesn't have any amenity open space or other space for community member together to use. So now in this kind of simulation, we try to incorporate some seating area which is large enough for people or a member of the community together to associate, interact with other and each other. Next one. And then like the other seating areas, so you can see that we incorporate the seating areas and also with flower parts, with season flowers and lighting and trash receptacle. So that way that when people come to the shopping center, they, in addition to shopping, they can also have some day-to-day activities happening in the shopping center. Next slide. And on this one, just close look at the surface paving area, parking area is now incorporated with lighting. They are in uniformity, and also traffic island, which is increasing the permeable area and also green area. So make the shopping center is more welcoming and then also lively. And then on the lower portion, you can see the sidewalk in join with the crosswalk, literally to enhance connectivity. So to walk all the way into the shopping centers. Next slide. And this one's to another angle, you can see that in the current arcade space, we extending another sidewalk in the storefront, which make the sidewalk and arcade is much wider. In these areas is another way to encourage community member to gather here and have some activity in addition to shopping, and provide the seating area, lighting, and also green area and the flower parks. Next slide. And this is another close view to the shopping center. And you can see on the left, each retail store have larger glass window, allow people from inside and outside to see each others. And here you can take a close view as an arcade space joined with the storefront sidewalk, which much wider area for community member to have some activity happen here or engage any activity happen in the shopping center, and also have the seating, flower pots, and then all the building facade was incorporated as community members suggest brick, stones, and for the upper portion of the building is more modernized with warm wood, the kinds of material, and so this become more welcoming. Next slide. And this is another angle to show you that along the shopping center, the linear space is really much wider, and there's a lot of possible activity could happen in the shopping centers. Next slide. And this is another angle to show you that from different sides, we try to create a much wider area for community member to have activity happen in the shopping center, which become an everyday place. So they can create their sense of belonging, and this is very proud of this is their shopping center in their neighborhood. So they will become a place where they would like to gather and then meet with other community members in the areas. Next slide. And again, in addition to two larger seating areas incorporated in the parking areas, so in the storefront, this linear space, when the sidewalk was adjacent to the arcade space, we put the benches. But when there's arcade space with the sidewalk is much wider, we can incorporate some seating areas, which you can see this one perhaps have like a chairs. People could possibly have some this kind of activity happens. Next slide. And we have the video or?
The video will not play on WebEx event.
Okay.
It will be posted in the hub though. Thank you, Emily. Thank you for the presentation. So again, I just wanna say that there is no redevelopment going on this shopping center. This was just a simulation, just to show you if it was to be redeveloped under the approved guidelines, what it could look like. So currently, no redevelopment going on for Liberty Court. All right, so what are the next steps? Starting tonight, you can review the draft. It is online already. So you can review the draft, you can provide feedback until March 19. So it will remain online until March 19. After the feedback period, we will revise the draft to include your comments before we finalize the plan. So the next step then will be to introduce the design guidelines to the planning board, who will then hold a public hearing before voting on the plan. So after their vote, it goes to County Council, who with the introduction of the DRP resolution and the design guideline. And hopefully by June of 2021, the DRP area and the design guideline will be adopted. And this is the link. I'm gonna put the link in the chat. This is our hub. This is the Liberty Road Hub, where you can find all the information about Liberty Road, the past plans, all the meetings we had with the steering committee, this presentation, the recording, and also the draft. And that's where you will be able to, at your own leisure, review the draft and provide any comment. So you have about 10 days before it goes offline. So at this point, we're going to open the floor to questions. If you have questions, please put it on the chat box. We have staff here who are monitoring the questions and who will unmute you if you would like to speak. Amy, Bill, do we have any questions in the chat box?
There were a few. One may have already been answered, but it's going back to the landscaping section of the presentation. And the question was, who will maintain the spaces?
Can we go back to it, please? So the property, the shopping centers are privately owned. So the maintenance is up to the property owners. And that's the reason why the committee is recommending to have some type of maintenance put in place so that there will be constant maintenance of the landscaping throughout the year. And some of them could be, it could be a grant because the Liberty Road is located in a sustainable community. And I know other areas have done so by applying for the community legacy grant and using that money for maintenance for the landscaping. Do you want to unmute the person who asked that question just to make sure that we answered the question and see if they have any further questions?
I can unmute, but the name is Mona Allender.
Please, can you please unmute Mona?
I'm looking for her now.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Hi. Yeah, it was somewhat answered. My concern is that I've been in the Liberty Road corridor for just about 21 years now, and I noticed that there has been some there have been multiple revitalization plans throughout the time I've been there, but I've noticed that you know, the money is spent to start these plans and to, you know, do some upkeep, but I mean to, you know, try to revitalize the areas, but I find that there's no upkeep, and you know, it's put in, but I feel like the owners of the properties, if not fined, I just don't, it just doesn't seem like they are maintaining the neighborhoods. That corridor is heavily traveled, and I think that, and I'm sure everyone believes that because it looks the way it looks, because the storefronts look the way they look, even in terms of just like with the big windows, which I love, but even cleaning the windows, I find that that's not even being done. It just makes it's almost a waste of money. So I wanted to know if there is going to be some type of thought process as to what kind of maintenance program, or what type of maintenance you would require private owners to do to those buildings in order to maintain, you know, all the work.
Thank you, Mona. Those are great questions. Again, like I said, we understand that the maintenance is an issue in this area, but unfortunately, it's up to the property owners because these are owned by private properties. What we can do is, and I know there's some organization within Randallstown who are doing code enforcement, going to, you know, properties and trying to file some code enforcement, because the code enforcement being driven by community they can only answer if there is a complaint filed on a property. And I know there's some organizations in Randallstown that are doing this currently. Again, this is located in a sustainable community. There are some grants that are available that you know, they can apply for maintenance. There is also it's also located in a CRD, or commercial revitalization district, and the county has some incentives for properties that are located in a CRD, you know, where they can maybe apply for loans and use them to upkeep the exterior of the property.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure, you're welcome. Anybody else want to chime in, add anything else? Amy, Steve, anybody else?
No, I don't have anything to add, Gane. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another question?
A few more have come up. I think one has been answered already. It was, would this be regulated by county council? I believe that means adopted by county council, which I think you spoke about earlier, about getting those guidelines adopted at some point.
Yes. So it will go first to planning board, and then planning board will take it to county council, and county council will have the last vote.
A couple other questions in chat. With the setting in front of the store, how will crowd control happen? Is one question from Sally Merrow.
Chris, can you please unmute Sally so she can explain or ask her question?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
So on, I think on one of the planning areas, it showed where that the sidewalk in front of the stores would be extended, where seating and tables would be accessed.
Yes.
And I noticed in the corridor in that shopping center that a lot of times cars are parked constantly, not in the designated parking spaces, but in front of the stores. And then with the additional seating, crowds will gather. And I was just wondering, how do we control that? Yes, it's a good idea to have seating in front of the store areas. But again, it's a problem with loitering.
That's a great question. I know the police is involved in this community, and all I can think, because of them parking where they not should be parking, probably we'll have some type of police presence in the shopping centers just to regulate that. But other than that, it's hard. It's hard to answer. It's hard.
Hopefully the police presence often will help people to move along.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Gane, this is Chris. I have a few hands up here in the attendee list. Would you like me to go through and announce who they are and to let them talk?
Sure.
Okay, first I have Miss Mona Alexander.
I didn't say again. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, am I talking?
Yes, we can hear
I'm so
you.
sorry. Okay, I'm so sorry because I'm like doing two things at one time. I think my other, well, just piggybacking on what she said in terms of the people just maintaining crowds. I love the idea once again of seating, but one of the things I noticed is just the amount of litter. And again, they're private businesses, so who's going to maintain it, because the litter doesn't always just stay in front of those businesses. And it, you know, it oftentimes ends up in other people's yards. It ends up in that beautiful landscaping that you're planning. And I just think that those are, I'm hoping that those are things that are going to be thought, some thought are going to be put into that as well. And then also just with loitering, like she said, you know, kids may be loitering. You know, we do have somewhat of a homeless population here. Will they be using those benches for sleeping or that type of thing? Not because I don't like it. It's just, you know, hope that it's thought out, more thought out, and you know what could be done, or that type of thing.
Okay. Thank you. So for litter, I know litter has been a top concern in the Randallstown community. There is, what I can say is that if the litter is, if the trash receptacles are on Liberty Road being a state road, it will be up to the state. It's the state is responsible. If it's near a bus stop that doesn't have a shelter, I believe it's up to the county. If it has a shelter, I believe it's up to the MTA. But don't quote me on that. I have to double check on that. If it's within the shopping center, it's up to the private properties, just like you said, to take care of their of the trash. About the loitering, again, these are just draft guidelines, and that's the reason why we're having this public meeting, to get your feedback and also to see what you think about what we have come up so far. The draft will be online. If you don't agree with, you know, one recommendation, feel free to you know, to add another comment or another recommendation. So, but these are just drafts. Nothing has been finalized yet. But I think these are really good points that you bring in. With you know, having the sitting areas, are they going to be used now by more you know, homeless people, or you know, is it going to be used for for what we want it to be? Those are really good points.
Okay, I also have Ms. Jacqueline Fulton who would like to speak.
Good evening. I'm actually a resident of a fairly new community of 60 single-family homes, the Seton Hills community. We're between Northern Parkway and 695. And I guess my concern is that we're the gateway to the community. We're very supportive of the Randallstown development, but are there any plans to develop Liberty Road from Northern Parkway to Villanova?
Thank you for your question. So the first phase of this Liberty Road design guidelines is the central part. So that's where we focused our first phase. There will be additional phases for addressing other type of land use, but also for addressing the rest of the Liberty Road, because Liberty Road being so long, we had to start somewhere and we had to break it down into pieces in order to you know, address the whole corridor. And I do understand what you're saying about the eastern node. That will be another phase coming.
So just a quick question. Who should we talk to so we won't have to wait for 5 years? Because it sounds like we'll be waiting 5 years before there's any plan. So just for guidance, some sort of information, who should we talk to about our concerns about our area?
The councilman.
The council person. Okay, thank you. We just want to know what's our next step. Okay.
I'm just putting the councilman out there. Is Councilman Jones here?
Hold on a second, G'day, I'm finding him.
And who is the Office of Community Engagement representative for that area?
I'm here.
Who is that, please?
Somebody said something about the councilman?
Oh, hi, Councilman, good to see you. But is there someone from the Office of Community Engagement in this meeting as well, Gane? Do we know?
I believe I saw Michelle Bernstein.
She was here earlier, but she had to get to another meeting.
Okay.
Okay, because Michelle could also provide some help and support along with the councilman.
What was the
Thank you,
question?
Steve. The question was what type of engagement or who should they be talking in order to have the eastern portion of Liberty Road to have guidelines for that portion quicker than 5 years.
Councilman, the question was from Northern Parkway through Villanova.
Yeah, the number one, I mean, we're doing some streetscaping down there. We put the lights up Liberty Road, and down the next portion will be from Northern Parkway to Liberty Road. I don't see no reason why we can't look into moving that up. However, you got to understand we're dealing with shopping centers. And when you think about Northern Parkway or the eastern portion, you only have basically one shopping center that would fit this mold, and that would be the one on Essex Road and Liberty, the one right there below the circle.
Thank you, Councilman. Did that answer your question? Grace, can you please unmute her?
Who was that again? I'm sorry.
It's a Jacqueline Fulton. And Chris, can you also let Linda Dorsey Walker to speak next?
Okay, thank you so much. We'll approach Councilman Jones. We're actually not talking about shopping centers. We're talking about the commercial properties that are along that road. And so I think you've answered my question. We'll approach Councilman Jones. And if you could give me the name of the community engagement person again, I'd appreciate it. And we are very supportive of our neighbors in Randallstown. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm putting the name of Kirk Mitchell, who is the 4th district coordinator.
Okay, and I'm muting Linda Dorsey Jones, or sorry, Linda Dorsey Walker.
Hi.
Yes.
First of all, let me say that I really like a lot of what I saw. You did a good job of capturing and encapsulating a lot of the ideas that have been expressed over the months. And it's refreshing to see that people were paying attention and taking some of those suggestions serious. I do have a question though about the prototype that was shown. I know that it was just a schematic, but what I saw was a public seating area that appeared to be placed dangerously close to the sidewalk on Old Court Road in back of the library. Now, historically, when groups have gathered in the Randallstown area near the Randallstown Library, it's been in the front of the library or immediately to the side, one side or the other of the library. There's a large grassy knoll that's on one side of the library that, if it were actually flattened out, would provide an awful lot of extra space. But right now, it's an incline, very difficult to walk on area that leads up to the street. I would suggest that area be flattened out and someone just put some stairs up to the street so that you would have much more space on the other side of the library. So my question is, why that space as opposed to the space that historically, because I've been asking at all these meetings, where it's going to be the public gathering spot for that library and for that shopping center and some of the others, because you do need public gathering spaces, especially near that library where people are used to gathering. And I'm looking at a site that's there. That's what I was talking about. The one that was on the slide that just showed. Yeah, that seems to be very close to the street. There's the library. I think that's supposed to be the library in back of it. And then you see the street. That's kind of close, as opposed to having something that's closer to the library that when groups gather could be utilized. And the other thing is, and I'm sure that it was just a matter of it being the schematic, but I saw signs and it didn't have what you yourself had said you were going to put at the bottom of the signs, some sort of plants or landscaping or something like that. That may have, that's what I was talking about. I thought we were going to have that kind of planting around the edge of all the signage. So those were my two questions, and my comment was great job.
Thank you, Dusty. So again, this is just a simulation done by one of our staff who has used SketchUp to do this. This is not we are not submitting anything. This is just an example that shows all the suggestions that we heard so far from the committee members. So actually, the seating areas could actually be anywhere. He could have put it in another area of the shopping center. So he just put it in here just to show you an example of seating areas, but it's not set in stone. The placement is not. Again, if there will be a redevelopment, submitted to the county, there will be a community input meeting. The community will be able to see the plan and also provide comment. So this is just an example. It could be taken from here and put somewhere else. But I do understand your concerns about this sitting area example being so close to the street. And then for the signage, again, it's the same. It's the same thing here. We forget to put the landscaping at the bottom, but it will be in the document if it's approved that all signage should have landscaping at the bottom. That was a great touch.
I see a few hands up here. I'm going to go through some of the hands up in the attendee list and allow people to.
Okay.
I'm going to start with Sheila Lewis because she's been very patient and the hand's been up for a while.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Good evening, Sheila.
Thank you. It was a very good presentation. I have two quick questions. One was about the landscaping. You said that it was a minimum of 10% of the parking.
I'm sorry, it's a minimum 10 foot.
No, I know what the landscaping. You said it was a minimum percentage, a 10% of the parking area was supposed to be reserved for landscaping.
Oh yeah, the interior parking.
Right, and 3% of the shopping space was supposed to be reserved for landscaping. And is there a minimum? For example, would it be like 10% of the shopping center, but it can be no smaller than, for example, 20 by 20 feet, or no smaller than 50 by 50 feet, even though it's not, even though it's 10%, but if that 10% is small, is there a minimum of size that landscaping should be?
Can you go back, please, Josephine, to the previous slide again, one more? Or here? That was it. Okay. So are you talking about this slide, the minimum 10% of the parking lot that will be for interior landscaping?
Yes, but will there be a minimum size? For example, if the 10% is like a 5 foot by 5 foot or 10 foot by 10 foot, is there a minimum size that even though it's 10%, there is going to be a minimum size?
So I believe, I'm not sure if Jim Herman, the landscape architect is in attendance, but the 10% is for the interior. It's usually for like the island, the parking, the landscape island. Depending, I believe, on the size of the shopping center, it should be every, like, usually it's like every other 15 spaces, you should have a landscape island. If it's a big area, but then if it's a smaller area, I think that's when the minimum 10% of the parking lot comes in play. But again, let me see if Jim Herman is here. Chris, is Jim Herman in attendance?
Okay, I have the same question.
I don't see his name here, Gane.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have the same question regarding this, which is on the next slide. A 3% of, I think it's the shopping space. Is there, it might be back, is there a minimum? This is the slide. Is there a minimum size that should be? A minimum of 3% of the shopping center gross land area shall be dedicated to a gathering space. But if it's a smaller center, is there a minimum that should be like 3% or no smaller than 20 by 20 or something like that?
Okay, so the 3% is what was recommended by the community, committee. In here, it said the minimum should be 3%, but we didn't really talk about square footage.
I know that, but is there a guaranteed minimum size? For example, 3% or no smaller than a 20 by 20 area or something like that. There's
it could be a recommendation.
That's why I'm asking, is there going to be a minimum size that's going to be there, not just the percentage? Because if it's a smaller center and the percentage is small, you can put this little small area, but if it's a smaller center, you could say 3% or no smaller than a 20 by 20 area, something like that.
It's a good point.
I'm looking for the minimum.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And my other issue is the trash and litter. It is a big problem. And I know these are only, designs and that kind of thing. But one of the biggest problems I've seen at the shopping centers at Liberty Road, there is not enough trash and litter receptacles. I'm not talking about when you're talking about at the bus stop, which that type of thing. I'm talking about in the actual shopping centers. There are not enough, and they're not large enough because very often we see them overflowing, trash being collected on the outside. So is there a minimum number of percentage of trash receptacles? Is there a minimum size of trash receptacles actually within the shopping center, not, along the outside where it's with the MTA shelters and that kind of thing? I'm talking about actually in the shopping center. Is there a minimum number of trash and litter receptacles and the sizes of them? Is there a requirement for that?
I don't believe there is one, but again, I can double check on that and come back to you.
Because one of the problems that we often see in these shopping centers is that the receptacles fill up very, very fast. They don't get emptied often. So either there are not enough of them or the ones they're using are too small. And it seems as though there should be some type of requirement that will correlate with the size of the shopping center or the size of the shopping area or the parking lot. The same way you set up aside that landscaping percentage, there should be some type of a standard that says when you have this amount of area, you need these amount of receptacles. When you have this much shopping and you're thinking about these are the number of shoppers that will be at that location, the receptacles should be a minimum size, enough to take care of what can be collected on just a routine basis.
No, these are great points that you are bringing. I will find out if there is some type of, size requirements based on the size of the shopping center. I will get back to you. But in the meantime, if you wanna add that comments into the draft design guidelines, it will be great.
Okay, I will submit that to you. And if there is none, I strongly recommend that some be adopted. Not just because I'm sure that other communities have the same problem with litter and trash in their shopping centers because there are not enough receptacles or they're not large enough. So if that's because there is no standard, I strongly recommend that there be one developed.
Thank you, Ms. Sheila.
Next, I have Tasha Wertz.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm an owner at in 12 Trees, the village of 12 Trees, and I really like what I'm seeing in terms of what's being recommended. One of the questions I had was, are there any incentives for the owners of the shopping center or owner to actually adopt the things that have been recommended? That's one question. And then also, I like how there is a gathering space listed, and I wanted to know, because I was hearing some concerns from people in regards to loitering, but I'm wondering if it's loitering versus gathering. Are we like dissuading the community from gathering? One of the things that I like is very similar to the Silver Spring area, if people are familiar. I like seeing that fountain out in downtown Silver Spring. They have a fountain that's colorful. It attracts families to come with children. Oftentimes during the summer, the kids are out there playing in the fountain. People are going to restaurants. There's music, live music, very similar to how Owens Mills does the music. Owens Mills has the food trucks. Is there any like space when they were talking? I agree with Ms. Dorsey Walker, who was saying the location of where they were placing the seating area. Is there possibly an option of where the seating area could be moved, where it would allow for maybe more of a gathering, not loitering, but gathering of the community to come together with music and maybe the food trucks and, like I said, that that type of fountain atmosphere, because I believe if we had more of a family attraction per se, especially with younger children, things of that nature, it would probably dissuade anybody who wants to come out there and loiter for improper reasons. And I'd like to thank y'all for taking the time to actually listen, because a lot of the things that I'm seeing presented are things that that I know I made suggestions on. I like the idea of the statues and things of that sort, so I can tell that you guys really did listen and pay attention to what the community is interested in seeing. That was it.
Thank you. So for the first question, that was incentives. So the county do have some incentives for property owners that are located in the commercial revitalization district, which Liberty Road is one of them. It's a TRD. And I can put you in, or somebody can maybe type the contact person for, we have Architect on Call. That is a free program that could show you what your, your exterior could look like. We have the BUILD program, which is a building improvement loan program. It's a loan program, interest-free, for I believe 5 years. And then we also have the tax credit, and then the tax credit, depending on what type of exterior you have made to your property, you can get either a 5 or 10 years tax credit. So those are the incentives that the county has, but we also have the Department of Economic and Workforce Development. I am not sure if Jessica is in attendance who can talk about the incentive that they have in their department. They also have some type of incentive to the Department of Economic and Workforce Development. Going back to the seating area that we have shown, again, this is just a stimulation. We are not. This is not. We are not proposing anything right now. All we are doing is just showing you that we did listen to your suggestions, and we kind of apply those suggestions throughout the shopping center by placing benches here, sitting areas there, landscaping there. So it's not a proposal, it's just an example. We have this application called SketchUp that can actually show you 3D images to better understand what we are trying to say. But it's not going to be in it's not going to be in an area where you guys will not want it, where the sitting areas, where you guys don't want the sitting areas to be. Because with every development, there will be, again, a community input meeting where you will be able to provide feedbacks and comments. Did I answer your question? And I do understand that with the whole seating areas, every time that we have seating areas, there is opportunity for, for people that we don't want there to be there, because it's available, it's there, but maybe that's the price to pay. Again, we can have the shopping centers coordinate with police, just to make sure that they regulate those type of activities within the shopping center.
Okay, next I have Kathleen Skulny.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Kathleen.
Hi, good day. Glad to see you're back. This is real quick, and it is a larger context than the particulars of what you've been presenting tonight. But I'm concerned about ultimately what is the weight that's going to be given to these guidelines in the development permit processes up and down Liberty Road, and in particular special exception petitions. We participated in a special exception hearing for the Golden Dragon location, and there were a significant number of community members who participated, and the compatibility of that particular proposal was totally ignored. It was completely deemed unimportant. And to all of us who participated, it was an example of why this particular kind of process matters, why all of the things you're presenting tonight matter, but ultimately, what's critical is the amount of weight they're given when the actual development permits are issued. Can you help us with that?
Okay, so the guidelines, is your question, if I understand your question, what is the weight of the guidelines in the eyes of the developers? Is that your?
No, in the processes for obtaining the permits for the kind of developments that they want to do within all these commercial areas, if they have not incorporated these guidelines into the designs of their developments, do they get to do it anyway?
So the guidelines are not set in stone. It's not mandatory. It's guideline. It's recommendations that developers should follow in order to, you know, respect the character of a community. Ultimately, the last word is on the hearing officer who will be approving this development. We as department, the Department of Planning or other departments will be commenting on each development that are submitted, but ultimately the approval is on the officer.
Right, but what you're really saying, if I understand you, is that it's entirely possible for the developers to totally ignore this. In other words, what I'm saying is there was a comment from the Department of Planning. It was submitted, and the developer ignored it completely and totally. And if it has no weight that the administrative judge can apply to it in issuing the permit, how does this come about, Gane? How does this actually transform the community if it does not have that kind of weight in the development process?
Kathleen, this is Steve Lafferty.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Hey, Kathleen. Great. Good to hear your voice again. As Ganea said, the review by the DRP is advisory. The planning office can advance those issues, and if the ALJ determines that they do not apply, he or she does not have to accept them. I think part of the obligation is on the planning department to ensure that the case is as strong as possible. The best design guidelines give us a lot more to work with. Golden Dragon didn't have any guidelines to basically have to follow, so there wasn't the same sort of, to use your words, sort of strength to actually make sure they get it applied. And it's true, the ALJ can determine that these are not applicable, and after that, the developer can proceed. What we're hoping to do is continue to see developers use good architects in the process, and instead of just using engineers to do their design build sort of approach, and that these will actually be a good guidance.
If there's a way to include or to characterize these guidelines as having compatibility with the community as their objectives, then we're able to link compatibility with a admittedly generic requirement, in particular within special exceptions, that whatever is being applied for is compatible with the community. But Steve, you and I have been around these kinds of processes for enough time. And the people up and down Liberty Road, the communities up and down Liberty Road, have watched this play out for the last 3 decades. And this is terrific. This is a wonderful approach to enhancing all of that. But my concern is, in the real world, how does it get implemented? And I understand that there's not a specific answer for that, but I think that should be an important part of how this is characterized, and in particular, how it's presented to the council. If we can link it to the compatibility requirements of the community, then it begins to have a little bit of weight. And you know what I'm talking about. And that was really all I wanted to throw in there. And I guess the whole subject is very current because of our participation in that hearing. And the department had already pointed out some compatibility difficulties, and they were totally ignored, along with the request for a whole bunch of variances, so they didn't even have to obey the various requirements. And it happens all the time, for the sake of the bottom line. And I'd really like to see this implemented in a better way.
Well, I guess, you know, my only other comment about that, Kathleen, is that there were no guidelines in place to help planning or the ALJ. Adopting guidelines, whether it's this version or some modification of it, gives a lot more teeth because there are actually specifics that then can be pointed to. It's difficult as an agency for us to say, we like the way it looks, as opposed to saying, these guidelines require certain direction. And that's what we're trying to move towards, and why this process has been so very important. And having so many people involved in the process has been so important, including yourself. And,
well,
you know,
thank you, Steve. And you give us, if you give us something to argue, by golly, we will. You know we will.
I know you will, Kathleen.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, next in line, I have Aaron Plymouth.
Hello, thank you very much. I really appreciate the presentation, all the work that went into creating this presentation tonight. I put in my chat box 2 questions. First of all, listening to what's going to happen when this process here closes and it goes to the planning board, and then it goes to the county council, hopefully in June. So I'm now thinking about redevelopment. So there are some future projects coming. In particular, where Giant Food used to be on Milford Mill at Liberty. And I know nothing's going to happen between now and June. So therefore, with these guidelines in place, hopefully the person who bought that location, when he puts up his Royal Farms convenience store and gas pumps and does other things that he intends to bring there, can we assume or hope that he and his architects and other people will be guided by the guidelines or influenced by the guidelines? Because you talked about the fact that that's in this study. We talked about the 8 focus areas, and that one at Milford Mill at Liberty is in this particular focus area, and it is going to undergo redevelopment pretty soon, or he's going to sell it and someone else is going to do it. So I'm impressed with what we've done. I agree with Kathleen related to guidelines should have value, should have weight, and should inform what the owner does as he redevelops that property. Otherwise, if no one pays any attention to and gives no prudence to the work that we have done, this one also gets stored in a file that says some work was done, and thank you very much. So that's my concern. I also had a concern that Kathleen had about the Golden Dragon. If the administrative law judge decides to approve all of the variances and a 7-Eleven is allowed to come within 200 feet of where a Royal Farms is coming, a convenience store with gas pumps, 200 feet across the street, a convenience store with gas pumps. And I hope that if that happens, that these guidelines will prevail. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aaron. Great comments. In here for the draft timeline that we have, we are hoping that by June, it will be adopted. Again, it's just a draft timeline. If it gets adopted, And then a plan is submitted after the approval. That plan will have to go to DRP review. But I do understand your concerns about redevelopment coming up prior of these guidelines being adopted.
Okay, next I'm going to put on Mildred Owens. She had her hand up earlier and I missed it, so I'm trying to make up for that now. Sorry, Mildred.
Oh, thank you. I am really happy somewhat about what you have presented tonight. And I do have some of the same comments, and security is, and the maintenance are the sticklers. You've introduced such a magnificent scenery of what the hopes are and what we've talked about, and it was almost like when I saw all of this, I felt like John Lewis going across the bridge. But you can have all those nice things, but if you don't have the maintenance to keep those beautiful ideas and things in place, it can go just like a balloon burst. There, if when looking for an avenue, I would highly suggest maybe going to 3 different shopping center areas that you know is a prime example for the way you would want yours to be. And find out what they are doing to keep theirs up. Because there are not enough trash cans to even, you can have 10 trash cans out there and every one of them will be filled and falling all over with trash. But if you have someone in place, now I did talk to one developer. If you have, and what they do is something I think I mentioned in the steering committee meeting before. They actually have the tenants to pay when they come in, and they hire somebody just like a person that is employed, and that's all they do. Their job is to make certain that everything in this particular area is taken care of. Because you can go to some shopping centers, you don't ever see trash falling over. I don't care how big the trash can is, it's somebody always, you might see it filling up, next thing you know, it's gone. And that's something that I think we should highly consider, because we already know it's a problem. And even if everybody in the community got together yearly the way we are doing now, it wouldn't mean too much, because you stay back during the year doing the same thing. So it needs to be something in place that is permanent, just like when the person rents that particular facility there, they should have money in that contract to go toward paying a person a salary to keep all of this up. They don't have to worry about it. This is that person's job. I don't care how many people you hire. This is your contract. This is your job. And we want it clean all the time. The other thing is, even with the security, I have gone and this is why when I said I have gone, if you don't change things the way the community wants it, they're not going to shop there. They're going to go somewhere else where the things that we're talking about now that we want, that's where they're going, and that's where they're going now. So we want something we can sit back and enjoy and feel peace and happiness and have. When you look at Liberty Road, you say, oh, that's a family-oriented place. I want to take my children here and bring them up. Some of us, most of us have been in this community like 35 and 40 years. And it wasn't like this, and we've seen it go down to where it is now. We are sick and tired of being sick and tired. But I love this area. I've been here at least 40 years, maybe 42. So it's like I was raised here almost. To see it go down to what it is now, it actually makes you cry. So if the guards, they have the same thing they do with the trash cans. They have the guards that are on duty every year. And they have a certain place. The guards are almost like part of the shopping center areas. But they are paid a salary, and they get that salary when the renters come in. Nobody has to worry anything about it. It's a job for them. So that's what I have to say, and I appreciate it. I love what you've done so far. I really do.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Thank you for your comment. So it's about 8:32. I will take 2 more questions before I wrap up.
Hey, Gane, we have 3 more questions lined up. Is it okay to do those?
Sure.
Okay, I have Devon Parks here.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Devon.
Hi. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I would like to comment. I have 2 things. I would like to comment briefly on the trash receptacles. Can you put the slides back to the trash receptacles? You had, I think you showed 3 of them or something, and you had one covered and one, but anyway, yeah, no, it was it was the next page. Yeah, that page. Now, actually, I'm just trying to understand. I don't mean to be the bad person, but I'm trying to understand, it's a shopping center and you're there to shop. And I understand people have trash that they need to get rid of. Maybe there's a couple of, you know, restaurant or fast food places there. So yeah, you do need it. But from what I've been seeing since I've been living here is that people dump their trash anywhere they can. And so I don't think it needs to be bigger. I just think it needs to be covered like that trash receptacle there because you're only throwing away trash. I mean, you eat a piece of gum, you have a piece of paper, you get a bag, from the Chinese restaurant, you may sit down and eat it, you throw away the bag. It doesn't need to be any bigger than that to me. I mean, this is just my personal opinion. I mean, I totally agree with Shirley. There needs to be more trash cans, but you have to be careful because in this area, I don't know what it is. People don't have trash cans, and so they tend to empty it where they shouldn't. And I've had to call trash the trash people to come and get some things because it started piling up and it's just ridiculous. So I don't think it needs to be too big and it doesn't need to be open so people can just throw things in it. I like the way that one is that it's covered like that. So my other question is, which I don't think we discussed it in our committee meetings, or maybe I must have missed it. But my question was about the entryway and exit ways. Currently in the Randallstown Shopping Center, well, Aldi's is, there's 3 exits, entry and exits. There's 2 on Liberty Road, and then there's one on Old Court. The one on Old Court is confusing because people go right or left, right when and they go left. And I think it's a one-way thing. You're supposed to just go right towards Aldi's, and that's an exit way, and then the entryway or maybe that's the entryway, and then the other way by the library is the exit way, but people go either way. So I didn't know, I didn't see it in the drawings, but I just want to make sure that the entryway and the exit ways that if we're still going to have those same 3 entry and exit ways, or is that going to change, or can we have an exit way or an entryway or something around there so it won't get too confusing as it is, especially the one on Old Court?
Thank you, Devon, for your comment. About the entry and exit ways on that shopping center, we are not proposing any changes to this shopping center. We are not proposing any changes. So whatever is currently out there is still will remain out there until it gets redeveloped. But at this point, yeah, Josephine is that picture. So there's one on Old Court, and I believe 2 on Liberty Road, right? So this is still staying the same. Okay, Chris, any other question?
Next, I have Derek Burnett.
Good evening. How's everyone?
Good.
Okay. First of all, I have a few questions. First off, I understand this looked like it just took care of shopping centers above the Beltway. Why isn't the Woodmore Shopping Center included in this design guideline proposal?
To answer that question, we are focusing our the guidelines for now on the central part of Liberty Road, which is from I-695 to Greens Lane. So this is the first phase of this design guideline. And that may be the reason why this shopping center, specific shopping center, is not included.
Okay, let me ask you this. Personally, I served on Baltimore Design Review Panel for 8 years under the Ken Oliver administration. My background, I'm an architect, architectural engineer. And my question is, of all the other additional communities throughout the county, all of their design guidelines have been created and developed by a third-party architectural engineering firm, and where the county actually paid for this service. And then the stakeholders contributed and added to after the professional had completed it. It seems like the planning department is taking the place of an AE. Is that the case here?
I don't believe it is the case. We are not trying to take the place of any A&E firm. We are trying to do this design guidelines through the help of community input. This is the community's design guidelines, and we believe that the input, the recommendation should be coming from the public.
Well, realistically, the community can only see and understand and contribute based on their past performance and experience. You know, they really don't have the expertise, knowledge, or understanding to complete a total design guideline as it relates to architectural and engineering components as it relates to the building. I mean, emotionally they can contribute, visually they can contribute, but architecturally they really don't have the expertise or knowledge. But naturally we want to accept their contribution and their suggestions, but that's why you use professionals. I mean, the county, I've looked at 2 of your previous videotape presentations, and correct me if I'm wrong. Did I hear that this isn't going to be funded by the county, this process?
The design guideline?
Yes.
This is being fully funded by the county. This is being managed by the planning department. This is Steve Lafferty, I'm the director. And part of the challenge has been a reduction in resources that we have had. I don't know under when Councilman Oliver was in office how it was managed, but other design guidelines have been developed internally with the staff expertise. And then as Gane has described, taking it out to the public for comment. Certainly, you know, if you take exception with some of the guideline recommendations, we'd welcome your input as a professional as to how we could strengthen these. Because, you know, we want the best for the corridor, and your knowledge and insights could be very helpful to us.
Well, my understanding is that, I mean, you can go to Baltimore County's a website and actually see the existing design guidelines. So for about 6 or 7 other communities already in place that have been implemented, that have been put in place for almost 30 years now. For every community you can imagine. Towson, Catonsville, York Road, Pikesville, everybody has design guidelines but Liberty Road. And realistically, to me, that's the issue. That's why you get developers that can come in here, try to dictate and regulate and do what they want to do and don't have to adhere to any existing criteria or design guidelines. I actually had a planner actually say something in response to my question and concern to his design as it related to the Golden Dragon. Well, Liberty Road doesn't have a design guideline. And he said that and responded with like a chip on his shoulder. I mean, why is it taking so long for us to have a design guideline?
Well, that's the purpose of this process, is to create design guidelines that have not been in place. And while we probably, if we rolled back time, would like to have said we would have had these in place 10 years ago, in fact, we have not. And so it's important now that we try to get the good input from the stakeholders and the community members in order to develop guidelines that are going to be valuable and forward-looking. So again, if you have some suggestions how we can strengthen the guidelines, I know that Danae and the rest of us would certainly welcome those.
Well, one of my first suggestions would be, is there any way that we could get copies of all the other existing design guidelines that are already in place? And we can use those as a particular guideline and update them accordingly, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel when something is already put in place for other communities.
Well, I guess my reaction, I'll certainly defer to others in the planning department, but my opinion would be that design guidelines of Essex, Dundalk, or Towson may not be applicable to Liberty Road. That each part of the county has its own unique characteristics and challenges. And so design guidelines may be similar and with materials and landscaping or signage and those sort of characteristics, but need to be dealt with individually. And also the engagement of the community is going to be different in every part of the county as well, so that and in fact, guidelines are at our website, so someone can look at what they are if they want to draw from them and make recommendations how to strengthen the Liberty Road guidelines. Again, we welcome that. Chris, is there another question?
Yes, I have 2 more people lined up, and then I believe that's it. Next is Paula Guest.
Yes, hello. I've been waiting patiently, and I'm in agreement with mostly everything that has been said. I've been a resident here for over 45 years, and I too have seen many, many changes that I've not really been pleased with. One of the things that I've noticed that is between Mill Road and Rolling Road, there are a Golden Dragon. Are those buildings going to get some type of a unified look? Because
I'm sorry, you are breaking up. Could you repeat that?
Okay, say that again. I'm saying that between
you were breaking up.
I don't know what to do. Can you hear me at all?
I can hear you now.
All right. I'm saying between Milford Mill Road and Rolling Road, there are a hodgepodge of shabby businesses. They need to be spruced up. Are they to be included in the redesign of Liberty Road? If when you look at those places, they really do need some attention. Are they going to be included in some of the redesign?
The current design guidelines is only for the shopping centers that are in this
All right, well,
study area.
All right, because that's a sad thing. We're going to look on one side and see beautification, and then we're going to look on the other side and see individual buildings that are disjointed in their appearance. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I do feel that that needs to be addressed down the road. Now, this is my second thing. There is an historic building when you're traveling north on Rolling Road, just before you get to the McDonald's parking lot and the bank parking lot, there is an underground railroad house that has been in the same condition since my husband and I moved here over 45 years ago. And I'm wondering if there is any way that that house can be included in the redesign of Liberty Road, simply because it is historic. I know that there were plans. I think that there had been some fundraisers, but it's basically just sitting there. I used to think that why doesn't someone tear it down? But it is historic. Even if we spruced it up and put historic signage around it and did something to the facade, that would certainly help it. But it's just sitting there. And I don't think people really realize the importance of that building. And just as you were talking earlier in the presentation about, ethnic culture and things like that, why can't we include that historic house and make it presentable and let people know that this is something really to be a community project? But those are the two questions that I have. And I guess maybe there's one more. Are we doing anything at all with the giant parking lot and the Ollie's and the old Shoppers locations? Those look like lots and lots of acreage there. That's it.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your questions. For this specific process, which is the design guidelines, we are only drafting the guidelines. It will be a document, if it's approved, that developers can use for future redevelopment of those parcels that you mentioned. And then for the underground warehouse, I don't believe it's in this study area. And again, we are only focusing on the shopping centers for now. This is the first phase. We will be addressing other phases and other parts of Liberty Road in the future. So at this time, it's 8:50 p.m. Chris, is there a last question that I'll be taking?
There is one last on there, and I believe we can comb through the chat questions later and see if there's anything we can address after the meeting. The last person is Greg Beauty. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, so my question's a little bit different. So in the design, I didn't see any drainage spaces along there. How many drainage spaces that's going to be put in there? And also the sewer components of that, which are the directions of that, the flow of the sewer is going to be in there? And also, in one of the parking lots, you had a walkway that goes from the parking lot into the building. You have one walkway. Is there going to be more walkway in that area that's going into the building?
The walkway that you show was just to illustrate suggestions and recommendations that came from the committee, which is to have some type of connectivity within the shopping center. So it's just an example that we were trying to illustrate. And then your first question, it was breaking down. I didn't clearly hear what you said. What you
Okay,
asked.
let me reiterate what I'm saying. So I seen the streets and everything, but I didn't see any type of storm drain inlets. That's that's gonna be where the rainwater is gonna go. I didn't see any of those. I didn't see any sewer manholes. You know, how many is gonna be in that area or in the streets. You know, so I didn't see any of those either. So my question is on that is that do you have any designs of where the drainage base, the storm drain base is going to be located at? How many is it? And also where the sewer is going to be located at? How many is that going to have? And my last question is that on the exterior, I mean, in the park, across from the building there, in the grassy area, that's gonna, because once you have a grassy area, they're gonna use it as a dog park. So, do we have any signs for the seating area stating that no dogs allowed in that park, or is that up to the building to hire somebody for that?
Thank you for your comments and your questions. The design guidelines only address architecture, landscaping, streetscape, and signage elements. We did not address any anything else, like anything else, but the plan will be online. If you want to review it and anything, if we may miss anything, feel free to add to it, add those comments to it. The next step will be to review your feedback, finalize the plan before we send it for introduction to the planning board. Josephine, if you want to put the last slide on, please. That has my contact information. I want to thank you all for attending. So the design guidelines, as I said, is available in the hub. We need your feedback. So please go ahead at your own leisure and provide comments online. It will be posted online until March 19. The presentation, the recording will also be posted online. My contact information is on the screen. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you have further questions. Thank you all for attending. Have a good evening and stay safe.
Okay, Gane, I'm going to stop recording.
Yes, please.